All right, I'd like to go ahead and call the May 28, 2013 council meeting to order at 7:02. Kevin, roll call please.
Mr. Dickerson.
Here.
Ms. Gerber.
Here.
Mr. Campbell.
Here.
Ms. Crafton.
Here.
Mr. Thacker.
Here.
Ms. Elliott.
Here.
6 here. We are a quorum.
If we could stand for the pledge, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Again, I'd like to thank everyone for coming tonight. Our first order of business is the approval of the previous meeting minutes. And I know the computers were down, so I will give everyone a few minutes to look over that. And if everybody's comfortable with that, I would entertain a motion of approval.
Motion, we approve the minutes.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
A motion, I have a second. Kevin, roll call please.
Mr. Dickerson. Yay. Ms. Gerber.
Yay.
Mr. Campbell.
Yay.
Ms. Crafton.
Yay.
Mr. Thacker.
Yay.
Ms. Elliott.
Yay.
Passes 6-0.
Next order of business, approval of the bills. Everybody has a copy of the bills. And does anyone have any questions over the bills? If not, I would have a motion to approve and pay the bills.
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Kevin, roll call please.
Mr. Dickerson. Ms. Gerber.
Yay.
Mr. Campbell.
Yay.
Ms. Crafton.
Yay.
Mr. Thacker.
Yay.
Ms. Elliott.
Yay.
Passes 6-0.
Next part is our legislation. Our first ordinance is O-2013-23, an ordinance approving the village's participation in a pre-tax contribution plan for the Ohio Police and Fire Pension Fund. This will be the second reading. Our next piece of legislation is resolution number R-2013-07, a resolution expressing intent to sell personal property not needed for public use and an obsolete or unfit for the use for which it was acquired by internet auction for the calendar year 2013. At this time, I need a motion to suspend the rules, requiring 3 readings on 3 separate dates.
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Any questions on this?
Do you have the attachment, what the vehicles listed?
I'll do
That's
it on
the
the
next
next one.
ordinance. You have to do a resolution
That's right.
annually.
It'll be on that one.
Okay.
Anybody have any questions on those vehicles?
Just when you get to the ordinance, if we could just read aloud what those are.
Sure. If not, I believe I have a motion. I have a second. Correct? Kevin, roll call, please.
Mr. Campbell.
Yay.
Mr. Dickerson.
Yay.
Ms. Elliott.
Yay.
Ms. Gerber.
Yay.
Ms. Crafton.
Yay.
Mr. Thacker.
Yay.
Passes 6-0.
This time, I need a motion for the adoption of the resolution.
So moved.
Second.
A motion, I have a second. Kevin, roll call, please.
Mr. Campbell.
Yay.
Mr. Dickerson.
Yay.
Ms. Elliott.
Yay.
Ms. Gerber.
Yay.
Ms. Krafka.
Yay.
Mr. Thacker.
Yay.
Passes 6-0.
Do we need a motion for the emergency clause on this
There's no
one?
motion.
Okay. Next piece of legislation is ordinance O-2013-26, an ordinance authorizing the disposition of personal property not needed for municipal purpose and declaring an emergency. And the automobiles are a 1997 Ford Crown Victoria, a 2001 Ford Crown Victoria, a 1992 Chevy Corsica, and a 2000 Chevy dump truck. At this time, I need a motion to suspend the rules requiring 3 readings on 3 separate dates.
So moved.
Second. I have a motion, I have a second. Kevin, roll call, please.
Mr. Campbell.
Yay.
Mr. Dickerson.
Yeah.
Ms. Elliott.
Yay.
Ms. Gerber.
Yay.
Ms. Krafka.
Yay.
Mr. Thacker.
Yay.
Passes 6-0.
At this time, I need a motion for the adoption of the ordinance.
So moved.
I have a motion, I have a second. Kevin, roll call, please.
Mr. Campbell.
Yay.
Mr. Dickerson.
Yay.
Ms. Elliott.
Yay.
Ms. Gerber.
Yay.
Ms. Krafka.
Yay.
Mr. Thacker.
Yay.
Passes 6-0.
This time, I need a motion for the adoption of the emergency clause.
So moved.
I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second. Kevin, roll call, please.
Mr. Campbell.
Yay.
Mr. Dickerson.
Yeah.
Ms. Elliott.
Yay.
Ms. Gerber.
Yay.
Ms. Krafka.
Yay.
Mr. Thacker.
Yay.
Passes 6-0.
Next piece of legislation we've had 2 public hearings on is ordinance O-2013-27, an ordinance adopting Chapter 154 Exterior Property Maintenance Code of the Codified Ordinances of Amelia Village. And this will be the first reading. We will do this in 3 readings. Next piece of legislation is ordinance O-2013-28, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and fiscal officer to enter into an agreement with Jim Nickel and Son Blacktopping for the provisions of asphalt repair and declaring an emergency. And this is the asphalt we had talked about on Sparrow. There's 2 other spots. We had Sparrow, Oriole, and Grouse. At this time, I need a motion to suspend the rules requiring 3 readings on 3 separate dates.
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Kevin, roll call, please.
Mr. Campbell.
Yay.
Mr. Dickerson.
Yay.
Ms. Elliott.
Yay.
Ms. Gerber.
Yay.
Ms. Krafka.
Yay.
Mr. Thacker.
Yay.
Passes 6-0.
This time, I need a motion for the adoption of the ordinance.
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Kevin, roll call, please.
Mr. Campbell.
Yay.
Mr. Dickerson.
Yay.
Ms. Elliott.
Yay.
Ms. Gerber.
Yay.
Ms. Krafka.
Yay.
Mr. Thacker.
Yay.
Passes 6-0.
This time, I need a motion for the adoption of the emergency clause.
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Kevin, roll call, please.
Mr. Campbell.
Yay.
Mr. Dickerson.
Yeah.
Ms. Elliott.
Yay.
Yay.
Ms. Gerber.
Yay.
Ms. Krafka.
Yay.
Mr. Thacker.
Yay.
Passes 6-0.
Supplemental.
Yes. Next piece of legislation is ordinance O-2013-29, an ordinance by the Council of Amelia Village, Ohio, making supplemental appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2013. This time I need a motion to suspend the rules, requiring 3 readings on 3 separate dates.
So moved.
I have a motion, do I have a second? Any discussion on this? If not, Kevin, roll call, please.
Mr. Campbell.
Yay.
Mr. Dickerson.
Yay.
Ms. Elliott.
Yay.
Ms. Gerber.
Yay.
Ms. Krafka.
Yay.
Mr. Thacker.
Yay.
Passes 6-0.
This time I need a motion for the adoption of the ordinance.
So moved.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
And I have a second. Kevin, roll call, please.
Mr. Campbell.
Yay.
Mr. Dickerson.
Yay.
Ms. Elliott.
Yay.
Ms. Gerber.
Yay.
Ms. Krafka.
Yay.
Mr. Thacker.
Yay.
Passes 6-0.
That concludes our legislation. Thank you very much. Next on our agenda is police chief report.
Council, Mayor. Got a few things here. Seems like this time of year, graduation, especially in high schools, parents sometimes think it's a free day for their kids, the graduates, to be drinking. Well, they're still underage. There's no free day. Parents, yeah, they can give their children, I guess you would call older children, alcohol without breaking the law. But the problem that occurs is their friends come over and then they start drinking out of the cake too. Then they end up urinating on the neighbor's property, and then we get called, and then there's all kinds of problems. So I just want to keep in mind that there is no free day out there for anyone else to consume. And why I had this idea, I've been through that before, but what gave me this idea is we got a couple juveniles for underage drinking, which is unfortunately not unusual. The unusual part about it is that they were caught right out here sitting on the bench in front of the police department, 3 o'clock in the morning. Now, they have to be kind of drunk to be able to do that, so they didn't, the officer didn't have to look too far. It's amazing. It seems like everything's, you've seen it all, but I guess not. On the mayor's court, we're using the metal detection wand, and that's we've collected, I think, over 5 or 6 knives off of people coming into the mayor's court. And why they would carry a knife like that in the mayor's court, I don't know. But we take them into the window and we put names on them, and then we give them back to them after they leave. So it isn't covered. Hopefully, we don't have a gun that way, but I'm not going to say never. The attendance at this last mayor's court was standing room only, so you can tell it's getting warmer weather. But we're out there hitting pretty good. I think we had this month over 107 citations for different things, which is in the packet. It's not totaled up because we had a little problem with the computer, and then Linda went on a couple of days off, so that didn't get tallied. But you can probably add them up yourself if you want to. But they'll be, of course, they'll be statistically tallied eventually. The officers assisted at 8 Lori Lane, Park McKay. We're down there quite a bit. They assisted the management cleaning the house, and I don't mean actually cleaning. I mean getting rid of all the undesirables there. The people that mooch off of renters, they come and they say, "Hey, let me spend the night," and they end up spending a couple, 3 months instead, and all their stuff's there. And all of a sudden you got a bunch of people living in an apartment that aren't supposed to be there. So I think we not only found a warrant on a couple of those people, we helped management and clean it out. So I thought that was pretty good. Set them out to the curb, And it was funny because they're trying to call everybody they know that's close to them to get a ride, and nobody wants to even come and get them. So that tells you that they've taken advantage of those people, so they usually give the person, the renter, or the person whose name on the lease. Then in this case, one lady gave her $400, but lo and behold, she spent on drugs and not the rent, so they were all getting evicted. A 6-year-old girl was struck. I think it's been almost maybe a week and a half ago up here on Main Street, 14 Main Street. It was a 6-year-old that rode a bicycle in front of the car. Luckily, she really didn't get hurt other than just bumps and bruises. What took place afterward, was a surprise when mom came up yelling at her own daughter that just got struck by a car, and they come to find out that mom was high. She wasn't watching her daughter like she should, so she got arrested for child endangerment and taken to the county jail. Administratively, we've been waiting on guns and ammo for quite some time. I guess the Obama thing has really hit everybody, including us, but we've got all the leather gear and the real ammo, but not the practice ammo. So we need guns and ammo, and we'll be all set to train with those. The new part-time officers are on their own. They're working out great. Couldn't be happier about that. They're doing a really good job. Clicker to Ticket campaign is currently going on. We're about halfway through that. I want to tell the fines. The fines for the driver, if they're unbuckled, is $105. The passenger, $95. And if a parent lets a child go under strain, that's $135. And for the second offense, it's $175 for the child. Officer Olson took part in the Clicker to Ticket campaign, the kickoff down there. Last year he went to Cincinnati, but they had so many Kentucky departments that this year they had it in Florence, and I assume next year it'll be back in Kentucky. But that's a big kickoff. Claremont has their own, but we take part in that one. We had a few hours participation in STEP, but right now we're struggling to fill out holes in when one of the full-timers is on medical leave, so we're struggling filling out the holes, but we have had some STEP participation so far. The department as a whole have been able to hit traffic a little more because the calls that we're getting are maybe just as much, but they're less involved calls, like unlocking cars and things like that. So we've been fortunate enough to really get out there. I myself, I was selected to go on an interview board for Sharonville Police Department in the promotion of a lieutenant. So I sat on that a week and a half ago. That was interesting. They had 3 candidates at that time. And I think that's about it. The only thing I want to suggest that maybe, and I'll give you this, that since I've been here, it's been, the maintenance guys, they do a good job of doing the floors and things when you have to, but dusting and things like that, I guess maybe you guys don't do that very well, I don't know, but I would like to suggest somebody to come in here and do that. The initial cleaning is $125, and bi-weekly, that means 2 times a month is, it's only $50. A total of $100, $50 each time. But anyway, they'll wash down the walls and halls and the bathroom and dust all the desks, file cabinets, and courtroom, sweeping up the entire building, cleaning bathrooms, anything else. But it's going to be a little bit more professionally done. The officers themselves, one in particular, takes it upon herself to do this. But I think for a police officer to do this, well, she should be out there working, or any officer, something wrong with that picture, I think. So anyway, I'm going to pass these out, and you can look them over and see what you think, and discuss if you want, or maybe we can get other options too. But it's just a thought that maybe you should consider. And that's all I have. Any other questions or comments about that?
I'd like to go ahead for David. I know I talked to David briefly about this, but I'd like to, now that we have the two part-time officers out on their own, I would like to see council move forward with possibly putting another part-timer, have Chief start the interview process, and myself to bring in another part-timer. I don't know how council feels about that.
I think it's a good idea.
How we looking on the officer for just traffic? Are we still gonna do that?
That's a same
That was
program.
the step program.
Oh,
They was talking earlier.
hello, sorry.
Yeah, let's set program. I like to do it. Those guys are working so many hours, though, it's kind of hard for them to work 2 or 4 or 6 hours more doing the traffic when they're already working like 12
Okay.
in a day or something. They do it. I got it back there, and a few of them signed up, but not very many. Not like I hope, but when you're running short, you're trying to fill holes and stuff like
Yeah.
this. That's the main thing, is get somebody on duty all the time, and that's what we're really trying to do here. And if you get to another part-time or even a full-time, maybe at the latter half of the year, once we see where we are financially, and we can participate in campaigns like this and programs and things, we're gonna need them, especially when Kroger's coming in too. So it's gonna be a big deal. I would like to get ahead of that. So.
You do that in the form of a motion.
Make a motion, we start the process of hiring another part-time police officer.
Second?
I have a motion, I have a second. Any other questions? Hearing none, Kevin, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Dickerson?
Yay.
Ms. Gerber?
Yay.
Mr. Campbell?
Yay.
Ms. Crafton?
Yay.
Mr. Thacker?
Yay.
Ms. Elliott?
Yay.
Passes 6-0.
Thank you, Dave.
Chief, I have one thing. Has there been any progress on a new spreadsheet for logging in instead of their write-up sheets?
Yes, we made a whole new log sheet, so those statistics will be, maybe we can even start them this next. We have all the neighborhoods, some of the ones that, what we did is they used to have one here, and they had them in all the neighborhoods, but those were getting patrolled. But then you had other residents that kind of complained, hey, you're not watching ours either, so I stuck those in there too. So every time they go through one, it's recorded, the date and the time that they're there, and which Linda can start. We're just trying to get enough to do statistics on it, so you can
Okay.
see that. But it's working out real well. The officers really like it. It's all right there, and just jot it down, no problem at all.
Good. Any other questions for David? Thank you, Chief.
All right, thanks.
Fire Chief, Mr. Jackson.
Good evening.
Chief?
How are you? Not a lot to report. Fairly busy month in April with 47 EMS incidents in the village. 7 fire incidents. Took care of a total of, transported a total of 29 people out of the village. So not too bad. Been busier, been a little quieter, so about it. We did participate in the Memorial Day Parade. Appreciate you allowing us to lead that. We also participated, Friday.
This Friday.
For the gentleman here from the area, so that was, the hour was all received, so that was good.
I know from, on behalf of Amelia Village and everyone here, we'd like to thank you for that participation for Daniel Cron. What Chief Jackson did, and what station number was that?
48.
48. When we took Daniel down 125, he had all the fire trucks and all the fire people lined up on 125, and they put the flag over top of 125. So that was very nice, very much appreciated. So tell them
That is
very much
so
thanks.
cool.
I think that's about it. Any questions for me? Comments,
Chief?
concerns?
Do you see us trending up in calls, or?
Yeah, we've been going up in Union Township and a village both. It was rare that we would have 50 calls a month in the village. We were running when we first started about one a day at the max, and we're up in, 50, 55 a month, so, yeah, we had a good year. Just the population growth and new Kroger's is gonna pick that up some, I'm sure, too, so bring in more folks. We've seen the same trend in Union Township, we've been going up and up every year.
Okay.
More folks, more business, that's not a bad thing. Anything else? Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Chief. Recreation Committee. Do we have a report now? I know I talked to Renee. You'll be now moving to safety with Susan, and be doing the new liaisons for David and the police department. And I'd like to put Chris Dickerson as chairman on the Recreation Committee. If I don't have any objections to that. If not, we'll go ahead and do that. So you've got a few days for your first event.
Have fun with that. They're gonna set up at 5:30.
I think Renee likes that.
Oh, I'm so happy.
Zoning report, Miss Danny Spiegel.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. In my report in writing, issued, sorry. We've had 3 new residential constructions and 2 commercial constructions, so things are starting now to pick up with the weather permitting, and things are starting to happen. Got lots of tall grass that we're trying to get cut. A lot of these are foreclosures, so we're trying to find people. I have come to find out that if I can find the foreclosure notice in the Sun, in the Claremont Sun, there's usually an attorney's name, and if I can catch on that attorney, they've been willing to help me a little bit more, as this has happened within the past few weeks, that, oh, well, we'll just call our property. So things may be happening a little bit quicker, but that's so far my niche that has helped me. We've got a couple properties we're just gonna go ahead and, sent the notices, no reply, letters have come back, so they've gone to the beaches to be cut. You have some forms to look over for June 11th meeting, so if you have any questions or comments about that, village rental registration form.
And we will be having a public hearing, correct?
Right, June the 11th at 6 o'clock. That is the 6 o'clock meeting. But if you have any questions or comments, please let me know. And that's all I really have.
When the grass service cuts the lawns, do they only do the front?
You should do the entire property. Now, there's some of those were so tall that they may have not had the equipment to come, and maybe have to come back or something, but they
Okay, because the
usually.
line, it looks like they cut the front, but not
They
the rear.
did the fence line. The guy was back. You're talking about the one on our street?
Oh, and it-
Yeah, he was back there weed eating the fence line, so I'm sure trying to be able to get
Get in.
something
Get in
back in there.
Because it's just that some of those are so tall.
And then you have 8 hummingbird as well.
Right.
Looks like 70 was the property taken.
Right, and then that one is, I had to, give them due notice, I just looked them, got the letter back, so we'll call them, I'll probably call them tomorrow.
Now, do you have to do that every time?
Yeah, unfortunately, maybe in the due process.
And it's what, 15 days?
And, well, depending if, usually I try and give them 15 days, maybe the first time. After that, I'll just give them 5, 10 days. I'm not gonna keep messing with it. So,
Especially on the foreclosed,
right,
they're just.
I know that it's, but hopefully if I can get some of these attorneys involved, usually, I mean, one attorney gave me her email address and she said, just email the addresses to me and I'll get them taken care of. I was like, what? But yeah, she was very helpful, so.
Have we noticed that, and I just noticed in our neighborhood that a lot of them have been coming up for rent, the foreclosures. Is there somebody buying up a lot of the
There's a
property?
huge company, huge
Okay,
company.
you know which one I'm talking about.
Mhm.
And that kind of spins us into the rental registration.
Yeah.
Right.
So we have contacted.
The nice thing is I do call them, and they are pretty good about having somebody out there within 5 to 7 days getting it cut, you know, so I.
Yeah, I mean, most of those look to be, being maintained more than they were when they were sitting empty.
Right,
I just
There's-
wondered
yes.
if there was a big influx of that company.
very large.
The only thing I have for council is I've talked to Danny. We hired her part-time, and she was doing very limited hours, 2 days a week. And I would like to get council to authorize me to go ahead and let her work 3 days a week, still part-time. Because the zoning issues we have coming up with the Kroger, we have other developers now looking at other pieces of property. She stays overwhelmed pretty much of the time, so if that's all right with council, I'd like to let her work 3 days a week, move her in on a Wednesday, still keeping her under 29 hours. So if I can have that in the form of a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
A motion is second. Any other questions? Kevin, roll call, please.
Mr. Dickerson?
Yay.
Ms. Gerber?
Yay?
Mr. Campbell?
Yay.
Ms. Krafka?
Yay.
Mr. Packer?
Yay.
Ms. Elliott?
Yay.
Passes 6-0.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
This time I'd like to go ahead and open the floor for public input. Do we have any public input?
Name is Tom Bernard, from 19 Woodside Park Drive in Amelia. Council, Mayor. I'd like to first thank Mr. Campbell and Ms. Gerber and the Mayor for coming out 2 weeks ago tonight and looking at the way the streets look in Woodside Park. Once again, there doesn't appear to be any cleaning up by any of the builders. And the reason I know that, we had went to Detroit a week ago, and we left around midnight on Friday night. So to see if they cleaned up on Saturday, we left 2 little piles of rocks, so if anything was cleaned up, they would have been gone. They're still there tonight. In other words, the only thing different is where the tires, and it's not in the middle of the street, it's like near the curb. And we walked up and down the streets, and there never seems to be any attempt at cleaning. I had noticed that the other builder, Fisher, I saw, and this, well, both companies used to have these things. It's an attachment that goes on the front of a Bobcat that cleans up. Well, I haven't seen them from Dries in 2 years. But they used to go around and do that, but they're not doing that now. Another thing to do, it might be something to do with Danny. I left her a note about there are lots that they don't keep cut. And someone came and cut them, but I doubt if she sent them a letter. They had a tractor, and they just kind of randomly cut the stuff. They don't remove any signs that Dries puts there. So when you look at the lock, it's still growed up all over the place, because they have a tendency to dump rocks everywhere, the contractors for Dries. So it's hard to cut the grass without going through the rocks. So that's all I had to say. Any questions from council?
The only question I have to Danny, is Dries actually building any more houses, or is it Fisher back there building right now?
Okay, but
They're both still building houses? Okay.
There's at least 2 to 3 Dries houses being built, one down Cedarwood, and then an extension of that one long street there. I think there's 1 or 2 being built down there.
Now, have they done any cleaning in that area where they're building?
Not that I can see.
Okay.
And Fisher, since they're down by themselves on, I can't even think of the name of that street, but they don't seem to make the mess that the Dries houses do. Maybe because they're farther away, so they got it. The only thing I saw the other day, there was a big rock truck came in on one of the Dries projects, and he did go pull the truck back into some grass and bang the rocks off of the back of the truck. I consider that something in their favor, but most of them. But it's strange today, I'm looking out there, we're putting in a foundation or a basement on one of the Dries houses. 4 cement trucks come in. 3 of them couldn't find the place. In other words, they go up and down every street. Now, the streets are fairly well marked there, so just another riding around. And the thing that you were mentioning earlier about street parking and everything, have they ever considered on dedicated streets of making it, instead of no parking, 2 hours, like you see in a lot of cities?
Never really thought about that, no. But-
You know, so somebody can park there, but they can't, continuously park there all the time, unless that's one of the things where they just keep moving their car.
I think if we did a 2-hour limit, we'd almost have to put another police officer to go mark cars to make sure in 2 hours they moved them, otherwise.
Well, the thing that they used to do with the chalk, like in Florida, the meter maids would come along and put a chalk mark on their tire. Well, all they do is move the car 10 feet, and then the chalk mark would, and they couldn't keep track of this. Once again, I thank council and mayor for their time. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Any other public input? Any council input?
I have one. If nobody else has something right away. I just want to talk about the extension of the runway at the Claremont County Airport, and how if they do start allowing jets to go in and out of there, how it will affect Amelia. Just trying to get some input from people, see which direction, so we can have our voice heard. That we don't necessarily want jets flying over all the time. They can say it doesn't create much noise, but we hear the warbirds go over, and the jet's much louder than a warbird. So I think that it's important that we make it known that if nothing else, we can maybe restrict the airspace and have them deviate a little bit instead of flying directly over Amelia, or maybe hours of operation and things. So if everybody can ask their neighbors and gather information, so we can, have a voice in that decision. Thanks.
Does everybody understand what he's talking about? They're wanting to extend the airport at Claremont County to allow bigger aircraft to come in. That's what they're wanting to do. And the flight pattern is through Amelia and Winslow. So depending on what hours, I know they're a lot bigger, but I know if you go down to in Louisville, when UPS takes their jets off at 4:20 every morning, it wakes everybody up every day. So I'm not saying they're going to be that big of an airplane, but they're going to be considerably bigger than what they have.
Well, even personal jets, the average age of a personal jet, or just say a business class jet, is over 15 years, and they're not complying with all the noise regulations necessarily. So that's one thing that maybe they could look at, is requiring them to meet all the latest noise standards, things like that. Maybe if they get to that point, I know they have to purchase property in order to do it. It's something they're seriously looking at. We just want to maintain our airspace a little bit to where we don't have to deal with it all the time. Granted, it could be a economic impact to the area to allow them in, but hopefully we're not the ones that suffer for it.
I know at one time they tried to put one in Brown County, and I know the people got together up there and didn't allow it to happen. So
And maybe we could look at a petition as part of that. Maybe some people get together to look at that. That's all I have.
any other council input? Let's not forget, on June 1st at 7:30 will be registration for the Family Fun One Walk. I do know there's going to be given away an adult bicycle, child's bicycle, 2 helmets, passes to the aquarium, some golf passes, and quite a few other things are going to be given away. Ohio State Extension Office is coming down to do a program on eating healthy. I think they're going to have a chef there that's going to prepare some kind of strawberry desserts. They're also going to have a couple individuals from a company that's going to do a health screening. So they'll do your height, weight, and BMI. And all this is free. Doesn't cost anything. Registration 7:30. The walk starts at 8. Chris, you'll have to be there at 5:30. Yeah. So I really hope people turn out. It's going to be a lot of fun and a good time. June 8th, or June 7th, 8th, and 9th is the yard sale. So don't forget that. And the big day is June 15th. That's our jump day. So anything you want to set out, you need to set it out. I would say June 14th. And probably 3/4 of it will be gone before June 15th ever arrives.
Do we have a list of restrictions on what
I
they
think
can
it's
set up?
I think you can
Batteries,
tires, and
paint.
refrigerators, I believe.
I think, can't you do the refrigerator at the doors?
Claremont
off and
County
just-
used to take
Can't
because of the
remember.
Freon in
Freon,
the
yes.
Yeah.
refrigerator. So I think if you do have something like that, I can try to find an alternative. I believe Claremont County, the engineer's office takes old refrigerators. So it's a good time, another good time to get everything cleaned up. Other than that, I don't have anything else.
Jay, did you take the pictures at the parade?
Yeah.
I just wanted to thank him for putting them up on the rec. We've gotten a lot of comments about pictures, and the Boy Scouts, I shared it with their site, and so I think that's neat. Thanks for doing that.
I think the Memorial Day parade went really well. I'd like to thank David and all his officers and chief and all them for participating. I think it's another parade maybe we can work on building. We had one gentleman that brought a car into the parade, and I heard several comments that his son kept trying to throw candy out of the window of the car, but the window was rolled up. So you could see him in there trying to throw it out. He kept hitting the window and going down in the car. So I heard it was pretty funny to watch him. So. Other than that, I don't have anything else. Our next council meeting will be Tuesday, June 11th at 7 p.m. So if there's nothing else at this time,
I make a motion, we adjourn.
entertain a motion to adjourn at
Second.
7:43. Have a motion, have a second. Kevin, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much.